I remember when I first, in the first year of being a Course in Miracles student, I was really, and I'm sure you guys know, really sincerely trying to practice everything that Spirit asked me to practice, and especially in the first part of the first, 7 months or so. It seems like my first focus became letting go, at least to some degree, of the belief in unworthiness. I needed to get that out of the way. And I remember, the feeling of unworthiness, guilt and unworthiness would start to come up, and it was very strong. And what I felt like I needed to do was go into the bedroom, close the door, and focus on letting go. Like at that time, I wasn't really strong enough to practice letting go in the presence of what might have been the conflict. And although it sounds ridiculous, but maybe some of you understand, at that time the conflict was often Jasmine, the 6-year-old kid annoying me in some way, and I couldn't sit in the room with her and let go too at that time. So it seemed like I needed to go to my room and let go, and it seems like I spent a lot of time in my room then looking at my mind and practicing letting go. And a thought that came into my mind, an ego thought that came into my mind, was how guilty I was, how selfish I was to be spending all of this time practicing A Course in Miracles and ignoring my daughter. And that thought was a temporary obstacle to me. I got very confused by that thought for a time. I felt, on the one hand, like I really needed to go and spend some time alone, practicing letting go, looking at my mind. And then at the same time, there's this thought that somehow what I was doing was awful. And Holy Spirit really helped me, actually, with a message that maybe some of you are familiar with that came in February of 2005 called The Ego is Not the Devil. But what the Holy Spirit helped me to see in that message was that the greatest gift I could give to everyone, including, of course, my daughter, was the exact practice I was doing in my bedroom at that time with the door closed. Letting go of my belief in my unworthiness, letting go of my belief in guilt, letting go of my fear, allowing these obstacles to be removed from my mind so that I could get to a point of true clarity. And I'll tell you, even at the level of form, we have evidence of that. If any of you ever come and listen to Jasmine when she's on the mic with me on Friday afternoons at 6:30 Eastern Time, she is a happy child. And she notices the difference in me. So even at the level of physical, that time I took alone, away from her, in order to clear myself up, was helpful to her, even at the level of physical. We don't even have to get into the metaphysical. She doesn't have this mom screaming at her all the time anymore, annoyed with her all the time anymore. By focusing on myself, by getting myself cleared, I was helpful to her. And in fact, people often ask that question. They'll ask, what's the best thing I can do for my children? Get yourself, healed. Take care of yourself. Focus on yourself. And if that thought comes into the mind like it did me from ego that says you're being selfish, that's not a true thought. And in fact, when you get wise enough, you know that that's a thought you don't need to listen to because you can hear the judgment in that. And Holy Spirit never guides through judgment or chastisement. Listen to that thought. You are so selfish to be in here practicing forgiveness, reading A Course in Miracles when you've got a daughter out there that needs your attention. You hear that tone? That's obviously ego. And whenever we hear those kinds of thoughts in our mind, those are thoughts we do not need to listen to. That is not our true guide. That is not our true counsel. That is literally the voice within that is attempting to mislead us and leave us attached to all of our errors. Here, we told a story about how I was before A Course in Miracles, before I spent all that time in the bedroom. and really, the way I used to be, first of all, again, I did have a lot of unworthiness, but it was very denied. Like I didn't think of myself as someone who felt unworthy. So it was very, very denied. But there was a lot of unworthiness, and it drove a lot of my decisions without me knowing it. And really, I had a thought that I wanted Jasmine to be better than me. I didn't want her to grow up to be a loser like me. I wanted her to be better. So what I did was I had her in lots of different lessons. I had her in piano lessons, dance lessons, gymnastic, horseback riding. She went to Chinese school. Every night we studied math for 20 minutes. We did reading for 20. She was in first grade, by the way. We did reading for 20 minutes. We practiced our Chinese for 20 minutes. And I also worked, and I didn't even pick her up until 6 from daycare. We didn't get home till 6:30. I still had to cook. We had to eat. Her bedtime was probably 8:30 then, right? And so in that little space in between dinner and bedtime, when she had to bathe every night, I was trying to cram all this stuff in. And I had it figured out. We have exactly this much time for piano, exactly this much time for reading, exactly this much time for math, this much time for Chinese. And I was like a drill sergeant. I mean, we had to be on the clock to get all this stuff done. And and there was this one night when Jasmine was practicing piano, and as you can imagine, this was really a lot of pressure. And she just started crying. She just started crying and crying. And my reaction was, let me move the mic away so I don't hurt your ears. You don't have time to cry! We have to do math and reading and Chinese, and you have to take a bath. And that's the truth. There goes Jasmine. So that's what... I'm telling the story about the time I screamed at you, you don't have time to cry.
It's a replay.
But that wasn't just a one-day occurrence, to be honest. I thought I was a good parent, and you know what else? Other people thought I was a good parent, because the truth is, where I lived, that's kind of how everybody was. We all, we lived in this high-pressure, upper middle class. Everybody's pushing their kids to be the best, and it was very stressful, and I was just as caught up in it as everyone else. So that time away in my bedroom when I appeared to be ignoring Jasmine, and by the way, she was fine. She may have just been watching TV, but she obviously lived through that 6-month period. And then I emerged better. Is it okay if I use it? It's a judgment word, but I think that it's an honest response. I emerged better in every way. And so the thought that I was being selfish by taking that time to practice forgiveness was just an obstacle thought that was attempting to keep me from doing that, attempting to keep me from becoming more clear. And this is true for us in all of our relationships, in all of our situations, all of our seeming problems in the world. If I have a problem in the world, a financial problem, a what to do problem, I don't want to focus on the problem. I want to focus on me, right? What's in my mind? What's in my way? Why aren't I clear? What needs to be forgiven in me? If I focus on me, and I focus on my true desire and my healing, everything else takes care of itself. Any guidance I need, I can receive when I'm clear.